Hello everyone, and welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. Today I'm starting a new series that I'm calling Evolutionism versus Creationism. It's going to be very different from a typical church message. It's going to be more of a scientific approach to the Bible. So join me today as we discuss these two scientific theories. Welcome to the Legion. Let's start with a simple prayer, and then we'll get into the message. My Lord, we come before you today, expecting to learn and to receive everything that you have to show us today. And I believe that this message is going to come out the way that you want it to. Like your word says, that only one helps. Every word a gift. We thank you for this time today, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I'm starting a new series. And this one's going to be a little bit different. So, like I said in the intro, this is Creationism versus Evolutionism. And this is going to be a unbiased discussion of the two. I'll give you evidence for both and evidence against both, if there be any. Now, I'm not going to pick any sides here. I am not going to pick evolutionism over creationism or vice versa. Personally, I believe in creationism, but I'm not going to side with creationism. I'm just going to look at it skeptically a little bit and see the evidence for both. That's all I'm going to do in this series. So first of all, I'm going to describe both. Chances are you've already heard of evolutionism. That's what the major scientists talk about mostly. So, I'll start with that one first. The theory goes that the creation of the world started off with a black hole. And it causes gravitational pull. And this gravitational pull pulled some rocks together. They collided and fused together. And they eventually became planets and stars. Some of them grew very big, some of them grew very small. Some of them became burning, some of them became gas-filled. The gases were originated, much like the rest of the planets, by accident. And elements fused together. So say for water, hydrogen and oxygen fused together, creating water. So that happened on one of the planets. It happens to be the third planet from the sun, where water appeared. Again, the elements accidentally came together. And most of the world was covered in water, and life started from hydrothermal vents. These vents created carbon, and they're still out there today creating carbon. And the carbon reacts with some of the other elements in the water. Proteins, all sorts of other molecules, and that created DNA. The DNA then created life in the form of simple-celled organisms. Single-celled organisms, namely. Simple, little organisms like bacteria and algae. And over the course of some around 10 million years, they decided they're going to group together. And they created multicellular organisms, simple fish and algae. Each one evolved to live together. And as 10 million years passed and the fish got bigger, and the algae grew into plants, underwater plants, namely, or basically anything green, underwater, and plant-like. Another 10 million years later, they evolved some more to grow lungs, and they started to move to land. And then they branched on to mammals and reptiles and other forms of creatures, and some of the algae came to land too, forming plants. Another 2 million years later, another evolutionary change where they grew bigger, more advanced, and this was more or less around the time of the dinosaurs. The mammals were kind of hidden, they were little, small, not very big. 10 million years later, prime time of the dinosaurs, the Jurassic. It is when the dinosaurs were at their height. Mammals again were very little, not very common. Also fish were still around, and some of the greatest fish were around. And some mammals moved back into the water and became whales. Or evolved into whales, I should say. 10 million years again, and the dinosaurs died out. Mammals started taking over. Then, 10 million years again, another evolutionary change where you have primates. Eventually, the primates came down from the trees. And another 10 million years later, people came from the primates. And that starts the current era, which started, I think, somewhere around 100,000 years ago. Somewhere around there. I'm not exactly sure on the time frame, but somewhere around there. And eventually started ancient people after the Ice Age. And then eventually comes into history, and after the Age of Days comes, or namely BCE, starts CE, and that's where we are today. So quite a long history with evolutionism. Now I'm going to describe the other one, creationism. Creationism, a little simpler. Starts off with a divine deity named God. The Jews call him Jehovah, who created the universe and everything in it. Basically decided to get a little creative and just make a world and a universe. And in one of the planets, namely the third one from the sun, he made life, DNA, and made all the organisms of their own kind. Well, man disobeyed. The first man named Adam disobeyed God's instructions, and this became the first major evolutionary change where the sharp teeth and claws used to be used for tearing open fruits, and now used to tear open meat. And eventually the disobedient nature of man became so violent, so sinful, really, that God had to intervene a second time and destroyed everything with a flood that covered the entire world. So waters covered the entire earth. And, well, it destroyed everything except for one family on a boat with a baby creature. After that, we now have the earth that we currently live in, and this big boat sailed on top of the mountain. All the animals and everything came off the boat and started to spread across the world. After a little bit of time, they started to spread across the world, which, over the course of time, brings us to now. So there's creationism. A lot simpler than evolutionism. A lot simpler. Doesn't that make it true? No, both could be true if the evidence is there. But it's definitely a lot simpler than evolutionism. So there are three major categories in both. So in evolutionism, first major category is the origins. I'll talk about this in a little bit, but the origins of the earth and the origins of life. That is the first major category of evolution, the origins of everything. The second one is the namesake of evolutionism, evolution itself. And when I say evolution in terms of evolutionism, I am referring to what's called macroevolution, where one creature changes into another. Microevolution is a little more subtle. So it'll be like you get two dog breeds that are somewhat similar but different, you have them breed. Breed them enough times that you have a male and a female, and then breed them. You now have a new dog breed. That's microevolution. Also, if you take that dog breed and bring him to a different country, possibly warmer or colder, doesn't matter, he will change. So the Scottish Golden Retriever is a little bit different than the American Golden Retriever. That is a good picture of microevolution. Usually subtle, but the same creature. So the third one is myths. Now when I say myths, I'm referring to not misconceptions, but fakes. Pieces of evidence that scientists have concocted. It's not legitimate evidence, it's not a true fossil, it really isn't anything that has to do with pure science. They just made it to make it look like this is true. So when I say myths, that's what I'm referring to. In creationism, 3 categories again. The origins of everything. So again, the origins of the earth and the origins of life. 2, the flood, which destroyed everything, but yet rebuilt everything, saying that it saved really 2 of every living creature, including humans. Or at least 2. 3 is again myths. A piece of evidence that people have just made to make it look like this is true. So today I'm going to talk about the origins, or at least the first part of origins, the origins of the world. Then next time I'll talk about the origins of life. So the origins of the world, I'm just going to give you the evidence for and against both theories, if there be any. So in this video I'm going to talk more so about the origins of the earth. Now, like I said earlier, origins is the first category of both evolutionism and creationism. So I'm splitting this up into 2 videos. First one's going to be, or today's is going to be, the origins of the earth itself. The next one will be the origins of life. This is a tricky topic, because you can only dig down so far. And let's say you dig down to the last strata, which is the layer of earth. So you dig down to the last one, and you find a rock. There is no way to prove whether or not this is one of the meteors that made the earth, or if this is the rock that God stood on. There is no way to prove that. Especially to prove that God stood on this rock. There is no way to prove that. God is a spirit. Spirits don't leave footprints. So there's no way of knowing. And same thing with a meteor. Now you can try and carbon date it, but you need organic material. And saying that this happened before life started, in both theories, there's no organic material on a rock. It's just a rock. Minerals. Elements. There's no living material on a rock. So there's no way of proving it. But there is some evidence out there, and I'll share them with you. So we'll start with evolutionism first. And the evidence for evolutionism, in the story, and I want to refer to both of them as just a story. Personally, for the origins of the world, I don't think there's enough evidence to legitimately say that this one's true. So, for evolutionism, or at least in the story of evolutionism, they say that the black hole made the earth. This gravitational pull pulled rocks together and they collided. The gravity is caused by a black hole. So the evidence for it is the presence of a black hole in the center of the universe. There is indeed a black hole in the universe. It's dormant, so it doesn't do anything, so you would never feel the effects of it, but it is there. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's created everything. We don't know how long it's been dormant. If it was dormant during the time of the Earth's beginning, well then it didn't create the Earth. If it was active during the time, well then it probably did. But yet let's say it formed after the creation of the Earth. Well then it didn't create the Earth. So we don't know how long the black hole's been there. It could have been there long before the Earth. We don't know. So it is definitely interesting though to see that the story talks about a black hole and the black hole is there. It makes sense. So there is a presence of a black hole. But saying that now the evidence against it, that's all the evidence for it, so the evidence against it is the fact that seeing that it's happened once, and there are many, many galaxies out there, let's assume they all were created the same way. Okay? I can't say for sure if this is exactly what they say, but let's say this is the way that they say. And it makes sense that it would be this way. we have never seen this in action. We have never seen this in action. There are many, many galaxies out there. In fact, still there are some galaxies out there that have never been seen before. In fact, the light rays are still traveling toward our telescopes. We have not seen them yet. Now, I'm not saying that we won't ever see a black hole create a universe. I'm not saying that we won't ever see it. We may, or we may not. But this is evidence against it is that we have never seen it. We have never seen it in action. And seeing that there are many, many galaxies out there, we should see some act like this happen. We should see a black hole create a universe at some point in time. We haven't yet. We have not seen it happen in person. We don't have any footage of it. We have not seen it on our telescope. We haven't seen anything about it. The only black holes that we have seen are very destructive, very damaging. Don't go near them. Very bad for outer space. So we have not seen it in person yet. And like I said, all black holes are very destructive. Definitely wouldn't be anything used for creating. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. It just means that we haven't seen it yet. We don't have evidence for it yet. So that's the evidence against it. And now, creationism. This one's a little harder to find evidence for. Because, like I said, God is a spirit. Spirits don't leave footprints on a rock. So you're not going to see the footprint of God in the rock. Also, we don't know. I mean, we do know how he created it because of the Bible, but also we don't know exactly what happened when he made it. So we don't even know if he even stood on a rock. He could have been in space. He could have been on the moon. He could have been floating around somewhere, shaping the earth. We don't know. We don't know where he was, what he was doing when he made the earth, or even the exact details of how he made the earth. The Bible says he spoke into creation. That doesn't tell us where he was, nor does it tell us how he spoke it. He just said he spoke into creation. It doesn't say how many times. It doesn't say anything like that. So that's not hard to prove. Like I said earlier, if you dig down, you find a rock, bring it up saying, this is the rock God stood on. How do you know? You can't say. There is no way to prove that God stood on this rock to create the earth. No, we don't even know he even stood on a rock to create the earth. So it's a lot harder to prove this one. But there is some evidence, some interesting pieces of evidence out there that will prove it, or to some extent. I mean, we only have one piece of evidence for evolutionism. I don't see that to be enough to say this is legitimate. So for creationism, we have common stories around the world of the creation of the world. Now, this to me raises some questions. How did we all get the same story? It could just be chance. It could just be chance. That is a very likely possibility that it's just chance. You know, they all create the same story at the same time. But still, I find it interesting that there are similar stories around the world. How do they get these stories? Like I said, with the creationism, the Christian belief, or it was originally Jewish belief, that God made the world and everything in it. Okay. Now let's go to the Native Americans. The Native Americans believe, in terms of creating the world, that the Great Spirit made the world and everything in it and filled them with a spirit. That sounds a lot like the Jewish belief of the creation of the world. A lot like it. Almost identical, really. That some divine being shaped the world and everything in it. It sounds very similar. Almost raise some questions. Why are they so similar? And also, even if we look to Islam, which is nothing like Christianity, in fact, most people will agree that it's the complete opposite, but still, this is very interesting. They will say that the first man was made by God. In their case, Allah. Which, if you look at the term, means God. So I wouldn't be wrong by saying God. But their language, God in Arabic, is Allah. So, I say Allah made the first man, Adam. In Jewish beliefs, Christianity, God made the first man, Adam. Again, there's some similarities here. This can be explained by a little bit of evolution in people's beliefs. the Native Americans were Christian when they came to North America. They did believe in God. But over the course of time, things changed. A few people came in who changed some things, and they evolved. So now the common belief is the Great Spirit made the world and everything in it, which came from Judaism, the original belief, and also Islam. Islam was created near 800 AD, or CE. Okay? So, many years later, after Judaism, before that, they did believe in God. That's how Muhammad was able to spread the news so quickly, by saying Allah. That's just the Arabic term for God. But many religions have the term God in their religion. So when they say Allah, that could be whoever. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the Christian God, doesn't mean it's the Arabic God, or the Viking God. It could be anyone, it's just the term God. So when he said, God sent me as a prophet to do this, and he wrote out the Islamic code. Well, see, the Christians already were, not the Christians, the Arabics were Christian at this time. They believed in God. I don't know so much about Jesus, but they did have very similar beliefs to Judaism, and they worshipped the same God. So when Muhammad came by and said, Allah sent me, in Arabic language, that means God, he converted him very easily. Very easily could he convert him. And that's what started Islam. So some similar traits were still believed, such as Adam being the first man. So I find it very interesting that these two stories, yes, there are many more religions out there, I'm not saying this proves it, but I find it very interesting that these two stories have the same ancestor to Judaism. They came from the same belief. To me, that raises some questions. Something must be right here. Something is going on here. Don't know. But it's very interesting. Very interesting to see this happen. And another piece of evidence for it is we can prove biblical stories. Most of the stories will not deny the fact that Jesus walked the earth. Yeah, Jesus was here. No one denies that. Now what they believe about Jesus, whether he was the Son of God or not, some may believe he was just a good man. Well, that's not going to get you to heaven. You have to believe that he is the Son of God, he was sent by God, he died on the cross for our sins. That is what's going to get you into heaven. So, that view of him will change from person to person. Or culture to culture. It will change. But no one will deny the fact that Jesus was here. No one will say Jesus wasn't here. He absolutely did not exist. Some might, saying that no one's ever found Jesus' bones, and you wouldn't, because Jesus went back into heaven. Physical body is up in heaven right now. So you wouldn't ever find any bones. So some may say, he never existed, we don't have the bones. Well, yeah, of course, you don't have the bones, you're not going to find the bones. His bones aren't here. So, some may say he didn't exist. But most will say, he probably did. He probably did exist. Also, we do know that the apostles were real, because we have found, you could say, some tombs for the apostles. There was somewhat of a gravestone, small, but it had relics from the bodies of the apostles, at least 3 of the apostles. That is very interesting. They actually found evidence that proves the existence of the apostles. And also, we have proof for the prophet Isaiah. We have proof that King David lived, and King Solomon, and Rehoboam. We have proof for these kings. We also have proof of Abraham. There is a cave, I think in Jordan. I could be wrong about that, and I'm not sure of the exact location, but I think it's in Jordan. And it has... no one else for sure what is in this cave, but the Israelites and the Arabs, or the Israeli and the Arabs, both agree that Abraham is in this cave, and his wife Sarah, as well as his son Isaac. They both agree, yes, he is in there. This is him. In fact, they believe it so strongly that they wanted anyone in there to dig it up to see whether Abraham is in there or not, whether there's any kind of body in there. But in the building that sits on top of the cave, we do know this for a fact, that there are two tombs in this building that contain the bodies of Jacob and Leah. Jacob, who was later called Israel, which is where the country Israel gets its name. And there are other stories that we can prove. So, we can prove biblical stories. Now, most of the biblical stories were written down as time progressed. So the first 5 books were written by Moses. Then the rest of them were by prophets as time progressed. So 1st and 2nd Samuel were written by prophet Samuel and recorded the life of David and Saul. Now Samuel died during around the middle of the books, or at least the first quarter of the books, maybe third. So my guess is his assistant or someone close to him picked up his writings afterwards and named it after Samuel. And then Kings were written by other prophets. With every new king, it wrote down what the kings did. Chronicles was kind of a retelling of what happened in later years by the prophet Ezra. So they're all written accounts. Genesis is the only exception. Genesis is the only one that is different. Yes, it was written by Moses. But Moses was not there at the beginning of the world. He only lived to be 120, not 2,000. Or at least around 2,000. Maybe not quite 2,000, but around there. So, he didn't see the beginning of the world. That was orally told to Moses by the Israelites. Many, many, many years later. And with oral traditions, those are very unreliable. You can't tell what's happening, because somewhere along the line, something is going to change. I'm not saying this is what happened, but with oral traditions, this is likely what happened. But the way the Jews did it, it was from father to son. So they really didn't have any need to skew it. When telling another person, possibly your same age, or older, or younger, but someone that you don't know, or knows a little bit of, then there could be some skewing there, making something seem a little more grand and exciting than what it really was. Possibly making you look better. That is likely. But in terms of you telling your son or daughter what happened, chances of that are slim where it's going to be skewed. I'm not saying that it didn't get skewed. I'm simply saying that this is how the Jews did it. But we do have evidence for the stories in Genesis. Like I said, with Abraham's grave, or a possible site of it, and in the building above Abraham's grave, we have Jacob and Leah. Then also we do know for a fact where Joseph is buried. So we have Joseph's body located, and there are depictions in Egypt about foreigners coming into Egypt with cattle and livestock during a certain king's rule, which is around the time that the Israelites would have come into Egypt before the Exodus. We also have in the strata in Egypt a layer of ash showing heavy destruction, which would prove the Exodus. Lots of natural destructions there. So we can prove it, but creation of the world, a little harder to. And the evidence against it, like I said, oral traditions. Genesis was orally told. It was orally told. It was not written until Moses, which came many, many, many years later. Something did change. With the Viking sagas, this is what happened. It was orally told, and something went completely wrong in the translation. And it's completely different than what was originally told. Completely different. Or at least, for the most part, different. So, oral traditions in Genesis, yeah, something could happen there. Not very trustworthy. We have evidence for the facts in Genesis, but still, kind of skeptical. Not a lot of evidence for oral traditions. That's a pretty strong piece of evidence against creationism. But that's all the evidence for both. So now it's time for the weekly assignment. And this is going to be researching this topic. Now, if you're not aware of what this is, of the weekly assignment, this is just something that I do to help you develop yourself spiritually. Now, research is important because you can gain a lot of new revelation from researching. A lot. You can get a lot from meditation, but not like researching. So your assignment is researching this topic. And that's it for today. So I just want to remind you to fight the good fight. If you've never accepted Jesus Lord of your life, but you would like to, it is very, very simple and easy to do. You don't have to pay penance. You don't have to do a whole lot of things to get rid of your sins. Jesus already did it for you. Some 2,000 years ago on the cross. He already paid the sins for you. Kind of like someone who made a mistake and his brother goes to jail for it. Not that they got the wrong person, just his brother stood up for the person who made a mistake and said, I'll take the punishment. And that's what Jesus did to you 2,000 years ago. He died on the cross so that you wouldn't have to. He died on the cross so that you could come before God clean and pure, as if you did nothing wrong. So if you want to become a Christian, if you want to become born again, very simple. All you do is say this prayer for me. So, why don't you be after me? Lord, I come before you today, admitting that I'm a sinner. But your word says, he that comes to me, I will not turn him aside. And your word also says, he that calls upon the name of the Lord and believes in his heart that Jesus died and was raised from the dead, he shall be saved. So Lord, I believe that you died on the cross and that you were raised from the dead. Jesus, come into my heart. My life is yours. Now do something with it. I thank you, Lord, that I am saved. In Jesus' name, amen. If you said that, you're not a citizen of heaven. That's all it takes to get into heaven. I'll see you next week.